Hi guys, and welcome to today's tutorial in Finishes Gallery channel. If today is your first time coming across my YouTube channel, please just click on that subscribe button, like, share the video, and also click on notification bell. Thank you so much guys. So today we'll learn how I made this pencil gown that's at the lower end is form of circle shape, then with ruffles all over. We have our material placed down on the table. Yes, we have the material we're going to use it. Here is this beautiful chiffon material. Yes, it comes in different styles. So we have our velvet that will form as a ruffle at the lower hem. Now we also have the zip. Here we have our zip to have a zip at the back, and also our lining. The lining we use to add to the fabric to make it fluffy. Our pins, chalk, pattern master, then our ruler. These are the materials we are going to use to create that beautiful gown. So now our pattern has been placed into two. It's folded into two. So we're going to work on the upper bodice right now. Yeah, the length of our upper bodice is 17 inches. So we'll go ahead and add 1 inch for seam allowance for joining at the upper area and the lower area. So now to determine the amount of folding, so we are going to use your highest body circumference. So remember we are making use of the upper bodice, we're working on the upper bodice. So the highest body circumference for our upper bodice is the bust, and the bust circumference is 10.5. So we have extra inches for allowance. So now for the shoulder is 16 into 2, we have 8 inches. So I went ahead and added ½ inch for joining to the sleeve. I came down 1 inch for the shoulder slant. So for the neck width is 4 inches. Why remember is the front we are cutting. We're working on the front bodice. The depth is 4 inches and it's a round neck. So I went ahead and chalked it down and traced it all the way to the shoulder. Now to create a cuff, I came up 1 inch. And I went ahead and curved it in this form. You can use a free hand. You can as well use a ruler, but it's better with a ruler. So I connected the shoulder slant all the way to the neck line. So for our armhole, I came down from the shoulder slant 8 inches in length. That's our armhole length. I marked down 8 inches and I trace it out this way. So that's the armhole length. So what I will do now is from the shoulder length, I came down for a bust measurement of my client, which is 10 inches. I shot down 10 inches, that's the bust point. And I went ahead to trace it out. Now for the dart, that's a normal dart I'm going to use. It's not a bustier. So I went ahead and shot down 4.5 inches and I trace it all the way up. So that's that for that. Then at the waist point or the waistline, I came in ½ inch on both sides on that dart. Then from our bust point, I came down 1 inch. So I connected the dart all the way from a ½ inch. I traced it just this way at that point. So now for our bust, which is 42, divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches. But because of the space, I will leave it this way. While cutting the material, we are going to add our allowance. So now the waist point, which is 40, I trace down 10. I went ahead and added 1 inch for our dart allowance. So that's that. So connected it to the armhole. So on our armhole measurement, which is 8 inches, I traced out the midpoint in between, which is 4 inches, and you know it's our front bodice we are working on. I came in 1/2 inch. Front bodice is always deeper than the back bodice for using movement at the armhole area. So I connected it this way. So I gave it a curve this way, just the way you see me doing it, all the way to meet our chest or our bust measurement. And I also trace it all the way up to the shoulder line. So here we have our drafted front bodice measurements. So what I will do now, I'll cut it out. Then I'll use our front bodice measurement to cut the back. The only difference between the front bodice and back is just the zip allowance. They will have a zip allowance for the back bodice, and also the neck line depth, then the armhole. So right now I'll use our pattern to cut the back. So I went ahead and placed our fabric and I folded it into 2. So I traced down our zip allowance, which is 1.5 inches all the way down. I placed the pattern, our front pattern, on the fabric, just the way you see me doing it. So remember, we are going to add our allowance. I mapped out the allowance space. During the pattern drafting, we didn't include our allowance. So I went ahead and added 2 extra inches at the bust area, at the waist area, and I connected it just this way. That's for our allowance at the bodice. So I'm going to cut it all through. Now for the back neckline, I came down 8 inches, which is a V-neck. So it's deeper than the front, and I traced and I connected the armhole area. So for easy visibility, I went ahead and traced every point just the way you see me doing it. Now connect from our neck width to the back neck depth. You can use a straight line, that is a slant line, or it can be a curvy V. So for this, I used a curvy V shape, just this way. And I trace it all the way down. Like so. So here we have our curvy V shape. So I'm going to cut it this way, and also the armhole all the way to the waist measurement. And at the waistline, I came in 1/2 inch for the zip tightening, and I connected it all the way up like so. So I'll cut it out from that point, just the way you see me doing it. So right now we have our back bodice. So I'll go right out and use the same pattern to cut the front. Remember, the front, there is no allowance, just the way at that folded end. That is the center front. I'll cut it, leaving the 2 inches allowance as well. So I went ahead and marked 2 inches all the way at the sides. and also connected at the waist area. So what I will do now is to cut it all through. So here we have our front bodice with the 2 inches allowance. 1 inch is for ease and 1 is for seam allowance. Which simply means that 10 inches is the actual length, then 2 inches is for folding, both the upper and the lower hem. So right now our lower bodice has been folded. So we are cutting the front and the back together. So it's both being folded into 4 right now. I went ahead and shocked out the zip allowance. That's for the back bodice. To determine the amount of folding, you make use of your highest body circumference, which is the hip. So the hip is 44 inches, rather divided into 4, we have 11 and some inches. I went ahead and trace out our starting line. So right now from our starting line, I measured out the actual length of the skirt. Remember, it's the skirt part we are cutting, which is 20 inches plus 1 inch for joining to the lower or to the velvet, and the other inch for joining to the upper bodice. So I went ahead and marked down 21 inches. And trace it out. So for the back bodice, the zip allowance is 1.5 inches, which I've mapped out already. Remember, like I said before, the front and the back bodice is being cut together. So starting from the center front, that's the folded area, I'll start taking the measurement from that point, from this point. So the waist measurement is 40 into 4, we have 10 inches. I marked down 10 inches. Then for the dart, I added 1 inch for the dart allowance, then 2 inches for the sides or the seam allowance. So from that starting point, I came down 8 inches for the hip length. Different clients have different hip length. For my client, the hip length is 8 inches. At that point, I mapped out the hip circumference, which is 44 into 4 is 11 inches. And I went ahead and added 2 extra inches and connected it all the way to the waist. Then at this lower area, whatever I have at the hip measurement, so I checked it out. If you want to do a pencil gown, you just have to come in just 1 inch reduction. So my hip measurement altogether is 13 inches. So I mapped down 12 inches at the lower hem. So I'll connect it just this way. Like so. So at the lower part is 12 inches altogether plus the allowance, seam allowance. So I'll cut it just this way and all the way down and also trace it. So I went ahead and notched it at the hip point. So guys, if this tutorial has been so helpful to you so far, please just hit on that subscribe button, okay? And as well, hit on that notification bell beside it so that you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. Please also give it a thumbs up, share the video to your friends, families, and loved ones as well. Thank you so much. So right now we are done with our lower bodice. So I went ahead and cut the lining for both the upper bodice and that of the skirt. So we have the front, that's the zip, the back bodice and the front bodice as well, and also the front skirt. So right now we are going to slit the back skirt or the back bodice. So that's that for our lining and the fabric. So what next I will do now is to stitch the lining to our main fabric. So right side facing each other, right side of the lining facing the right side of the material. So I'll start by joining at the neckline area just this way. I'll stitch the neckline, the sides, and now flip it. So for the back, also the neckline, also the sides, just the same way. So for the lower bodies, these two sides, I will join it, and also flip it to the other side. So the back. So I will do this and show us the next step. Right now, the neckline has been stitched. So what I will do now is to notch it all the way around, like so. After which, I will top stitch on the lining part only. So on the lining part, I'll place it this way, just the way you see me doing it. I'll fold it to the lining side and top stitch all the way around. not on the main fabric but on the lining. Right now the upper bodice and the lower bodice have been stitched. So what next I will do now is to trace out the dart. So for the back dart, I measured out 4.5 inches. Half inch is for stitching to the dart. So 4.5 inches on both sides, and the dart length 8 inches. So I measured out 8 inches also on both sides. So at that point, I came in half inch on both sides, half inch on both sides. So I'll do the same on the other side. So I went ahead and connected it from the 4.5 inches we mapped out all the way to the 8 inches in length, and also trace out the half inch on both sides. So what I will do next is to fold it in on both sides and stitch right out on it. So for the front bodice, I mapped out the center point. I notched it at that point. So from that center point, remember we mapped out for that length 4.5 inches. I also mapped out 4.5 inches as well, and came off for the dart length 5 inches. I shot it down. So I went ahead and connected it all the way to the 4.5 inches for the dart length. I came on both sides half inch on both sides. So I'll connect it from that half inch all the way up, and I'll do the same on the other side. So on those lines I'm going to stitch the dart just like this way you see me folding it. I'll run a stitch all the way from up to down. I'll do the same on the other side, up to down. I also do the same on the skirt. I also do the same on our skirt. So I'll do this and show us how it looks. Right now, the upper bodice and the lower bodice that have been joined together like so. See how it is. It have been stitched down. Also the lower area. So what I will do next is to notch the center point of the upper bodice and the lower bodice. So I'll match them like so, the center point, and hold it down with a pin. So I will stitch right out on it like so. I'll stitch just this way all through, and I'll do the same for the back bodice. Right now, the upper bodice and the lower bodice have been joined together for the front and the back. So what I will do next is to place the front and the back together, right side facing each other. Then I'll close it just the way you see me doing it on the shoulders. I'll close it this way, lining against the lining at the shoulder area, then the fabric against the fabric, taking note of the center point. So I went ahead and fastened it with a pin all through, after which I will stitch it on the shoulder. I'll also do the same on the other side. Right now, the shoulders have been joined and also the sides. Using the right body measurement, the bust and the waist have been closed down together. So remember, for our velvet, remember we said we are going to add our velvet at the lower hem. So what I went and did was to measure out the waist measurement, which is 40 inches for the circumference. 40 divided by 2, we have 20 inches. So I marked down 10 inches on both sides. I took note of the center point. And remember, we divided into 2 because we have the back and the front bodies. It's folded into 2. Now for the hip, I came down 8 inches for hip length, and the hip circumference, which is 44, into 2, we have 22 inches. So that means we are marking down 11 inches on both sides. That is 22 inches. So I went ahead and chalked it down. And I connected it all the way from the waist to the hip. Take note, all the measurement is being done on the right side of the fabric. Now for the lower hem, I came up 6 inches. This to enable me to create that circle shape. So all the way from the hip, I trace it down just the way you see me doing it to that 6 inches. And from there, I will curve it. I'll give it a circle curve to the lower hem, just the way you see me tracing it. I also do the same on the other side. From the 6 inches, I'll create this curve in such a way. You can use your pattern master to curve it out, or you can also use it with a free hand. So from the waist to the hip to the hem of the gown, so it's going to be in this circle form. The velvet will be placed right there on those marked points. So I will also do the same on the back bodice. Remember, as like I said before, it's been done on the right side of the fabric. That is where we're going to place or stitch down the velvet. I came up 6 inches. Just the same thing I did on the front, I will also do on the back. And also trace down, mark down the waist measurement. I'll trace it out all the way to the hip. I also do the same on the other side. So I'll connect it all the way to the hip. Then on the hip as well, I also mapped out the hip circumference, which is 22 inches, like I said before. So I'll connect it also to the waist. So I'll curve it at that 6 inches way I came up. I'll connect it like so to the hem of the dress. So I also do the same on the other side. So that's that for our tracing. So on this map, we are going to place the velvet, or stitch down the velvet all around both the front and the back bodice. So right now for our velvet, I went ahead and cut out a long strip of length 180 inches, while the width is 10 inches. Remember, we mapped out 2 inches for folding. I went ahead and folded the 1.5 inches, then 1/2 inches for joining to the upper bodice. So what we have here is 10 inches wideness. So right now, what I will do next is to measure out all around the marked point from the waist area, or where we are going to place, from the starting point where we are going to place the velvet. I went ahead and measured it all around, just the way you see me doing it. I measure it all around to the other side of the waist. After the measurement, I got 58 inches. So that means we are going to multiply whatever we got by 2, all round by 2. So what we'll be having there is 116 inches. But because the velvet is going to be pleated all round, it's going to have pleating. That was why I cut 180. So that by the time we pleat all round, it will not be going to have short of the fabric. So what I did was I divided the 180 into 2 and slitted it. So that means one part of the velvet will be placed on the front, while the other will be placed on the back bodice. So now I went ahead and pleated the velvet just the way you see me doing it. As I'm pleating, I'm holding it down with a pin so that it will enable you to stitch properly. So I went ahead, as you are pleating, you know it's a stretchy fabric, so you need to take your time while pleating. So as I fold in my pleating, I fasten it down with pin. So I'll keep on doing this all around to the other side of the waist. So after pleating it and fastening it with a pin, I'll go right there and stitch it on the fabric, together with the fabric. So after that, it will fall out this way. I'll also do the same on the back bodice. So here we have our pleated velvets all around the dress. Yes, all around the dress, on both the front and the back bodice. Let's see how full the velvet is on the dress. Also the back, see how full it is. And here also is the inside. So what I will do next is to stock in the velvet right there inside, right inside the dress. After which I will stitch, I'll close it up to that 6 inches mark we placed before. Remember, we came up 6 inches from the hem of the dress. So I'll go right there and fasten it down with a pin. So I went ahead and confirm again the 6 inches. So I'm going to run down the stitch from the waist all the way down to that 6 inches point from where we created the curve. So I also do the same right there at the other side. of the dress. So I'll also run a stitch all the way to the 6 inches marked. After which I will turn it to the right side. So here it has been stitched on both sides. So I went ahead and flip it to the right side of the dress. So see how close it is, properly faced after stitching at the back. See the 6 inches marked. Also on the other side the same. So now for the sleeve. So I went ahead and measured out our sleeve length or armhole length, that is 9.5 inches on both sides. So now for the sleeve, we have 9.5 or 9.5 inches. We'll multiply it by 2 because it's a round, it's a circumference. So once it's multiplied by 2, we have 19 inches. That's our round armhole circumference. So 19 inches plus 2 inches for size seam allowance for joining at both sides. So I added 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other side, that is 2 inches. So 19 plus 2, we have 21 inches. We'll now divide it by 6.28, which is the full flare measurement for calculating full flare. So 21 divided by 6.28, we have 3.35 inches. So to determine how we are going to fold the material or the length you are meant to fold or to stop, that is length, the actual length you want your sleeve to be. So for my client, the actual length is 7 inches. 7 inches plus this is the radius, plus the radius of our armhole, which is 3.34. So we add it together. So that means 7 plus 3.34, we have 10.34. Plus, now we're going to join it to the sleeve and at the same time fold it at the hem area. So we added 2 inches for that, joining to the sleeve and folding as well. So all we have is 12 inches. So 12 inches is what we are going to use to fold the material. So let's do that now. We have 13 inches, it's okay. So what I'm going to do now is to fold it the second time. As you're folding, you also determine, yes, here is also 13 inches. So now we are going to take our radius. So we said that radius 3.34. So we have 3 here. Let's just make it 3.5 approximately. For maybe we can pleat it, the excess we pleat. So we have 3.5 here. We also have 3.5 and 3.5. So all the way from here, we'll connect it. So we're going to cut from here. I hope our shock, this is a white shock, it's visible. So all the way from here, remember I said earlier the full length of our sleeve is 7 inches. 7 inches, remember we added 2 inches for our joining or hemming at the lower area and also folding to the sleeve. You can add 1 inch or 2 inches. So before this, I'm going to make use of the 2. But let's leave it at 1. Let's leave it at 1.5. So we have 8 and the 7 inches, 8, we have 8.5. Yes, so we have 8.5 here. 8.5. Connect it to the first one. We have 8.5. Also that. So I'm going to connect it now. We have our sleeve. I'll use this to cut 3 more. This one serve as a lining, and the other will serve as our main fabric. So I went ahead and folded in right side facing each other, right side of our sleeve against the right side, and I went ahead and fastened it with a pin. So I'm going to stitch it this way, side and all around on both sides of the sleeve. Now it is done, and I went ahead and notched the side and flip it to the right side of the fabric. Just the way you see me doing it, I turned it to the right side and removed all the edges. You can use your hand, you can as well use scissors to bring it out. The closed edges, just poke it out with scissors or any sharp object. So I'll go right there and iron it out. I'll also do the same on the other sleeve and stitch right there on top of it. Just stitch right there to hold it firm. So I'll also do the same on the other side of the sleeve. Now the 2 sleeves has been done and ironed out. I've closed it. So what I will do next is to fold one side of the sleeve together, just the way you see me doing it. I'll hold it down with a pin and close. That is the right side, this is the wrong side. So you're working with the wrong side and close it out. It has been done. So I went ahead and notched the center point. I'll place it this way on the sleeve. Right side of the sleeve facing the right side of the fabric. So I went ahead and held it down with a pin. And here is the shoulder area. I notched it at that point. So at this point that we join the shoulder, we also place it, the 2 notched against each other. So I held it down with a pin to enable me to stitch it properly. So right now, I'll go right out and stitch all around the armhole. I'll stitch it all around the armhole, all around. I'll also do the same on the other side of the armhole and closing our zip. So I'll do this and show us the final look of our dress. So thank you so much for watching to this end. Please just click on that subscribe button, okay? Subscribe to my channel for more amazing content. Like, share the video, also click on notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. So thank you so much. Bye.